We've added a number of new tools to the polygon modeling toolset in 3ds Max 7, and so what I'm going to do is just build up this character which was originally created by David King, just build it up to a little more presentable shape using some of the new features. To start off with, we're going to do some workflow stuff. So if I scroll in here, you can see I've got this big gaping hole in his head. Typical workflow that's starting to come out now is people will work in strips. They'll actually model different key strips of the geometry. So for instance, the eyebrow ridge, the ridge that runs under the eye itself, the nose, and of course around the mouth, and then fill in the holes afterwards. Well, a quick way of doing that is once you've got a hole that's defined by some ridges around it, I can simply go in, pick the open edge, and cap it. And 3ds Max 7 will actually go in and basically take a best guess at how to fit a polygon around that complex shape. Now I can go in and use my cut tool to start to define what that looks like. So in this case, we've added a number of new features to the cut. You can actually see I get a different icon depending on what I'm over. Right now I'm cutting from a vert, or I'm cutting from an edge, or if I'm cutting on open space. So I get a much better idea if I'm actually locking to something. So in this case, let's just do a cut like so, and one somewhere around there. I can just spin it around and again do another cut onto this edge, and another one here. Now if we want to go across the side, again I can do the same type of thing, just cut it through, find that vert, there we go. Cut another one up this way, so we'll just wrap it around the nose and complete it there. And then one last vert that will just run all the way to there. So now I've cut up that surface, got a pretty good parameterization out of it, so I've got some nice loops. I can also go in and turn edges, so this way I'm seeing the underlying tries that build up my polys. And I can go and just decide, well, maybe this one should go the other way. How's that one if I go this way? No, we'll keep it that way. So I can just go through and, again, clean up the model, make it work as efficiently as possible. Now from this point, why don't we go in and just throw a symmetry modifier on this. This way it'll look a little more like a character at this point, so we'll just jump symmetry, something like so. Now we have to start to fill in the arms and the shoulders. So to do that, I'm again going to go in and just back down to my edit poly level, open edges, and I can start to pick on stuff. Let's just show the end result. So for instance, if I zoom in here, I can grab that edge there and that edge there and simply say bridge, and it automatically fills that. So it's connected vert to fill those edges in, and of course it's done on the other side because of symmetry. Now bridge is a lot more powerful and complex than that. It can actually go in, and I'll just pick again 2 more edges, and you see I'm following the same paradigm for building the arm as we did the head. Construct a few distinguishing loops and then let Max build in the geometry. So in this case, again, we'll pick bridge, but we'll pull out the pop-up tool, and now I can say I want, say, 3 segments out of that, and let's give it a little bit of taper, and we'll put a little bias onto that just so it slides it back a little, and apply. Now I can go on to my next set of loops, and again it automatically builds with the same settings. Now the thing you'll notice with this is, because the hand is modeled facing down, in this pose the forearm should be twisted, because that's the way the human body works. And if it's not modeled twisted, then when the animator rotates the hand into an upright position, the forearm actually looks wrong, because it's twisting in the wrong direction. So thankfully I'm using the bridge tool, and I actually have a twist operator on this, so I can just say twist it, and now what it's done is it's actually twisted the connecting verts to match up to the next one around the order. What this means now is when I go to animate this character and turn the hand upwards, the forearm will untwist itself in a more natural way. So it's a very easy way to actually build out hands and limbs on characters. So with that, I'll just say OK. Now another function that's been added into Edit Poly is the ability to go in and animate. So to do that, what I'm going to do is actually drop another modifier on this, which is the Edit Poly modifier. This is probably the most requested option for Max 7. Typically in the past we had Editable Poly, which was a root system, but we didn't have an Edit Poly. People wanted to create the same kind of workflow they had with the Editable Mesh and Edit Mesh functionality. So with Edit Poly, now you're able to stack your modeling operations very easily, go back and forth, and also animate them at different levels. Benefit of this, of course, is you can go in and turn them on and off at any time to save on speed or to make different decisions on how your character is going to be built. So in this case, I've put the Edit Poly on, and I'm going to tell it that this Edit Poly modifier is designed to animate. Once I've done that, I can now go scrolling in, and let's just pick on, say, this poly right here, and we'll just animate a little horn creating. So I'm just going to turn on Auto Key, and then we're going to go in and grab the Bevel tool, and simply move to, say, frame 20. And we'll tell it how high we want this to go, somewhere around there, and a little less outline, so we get that, and just say OK. So now that we've done that, You now have an animated bevel happening, so vertices are being created in this process. Now I can turn off Auto Key. Now from here, let's go in and just throw on a Turbo Smooth, so I can again jump up to the top level here. Let's just go up above the symmetry. We'll throw on a Turbo Smooth on this. And now Turbo Smooth is a new feature that we added to replace Mesh Smooth in many operations. Turbo Smooth is a much faster mesh smoothing algorithm when it comes to deforming objects, so it's often a little more appropriate for characters. So in this case, you can see I've Turbo Smoothed them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this information and collapse it down to a finished mesh, and then we'll do a couple last subtle tweaks. Just going to collapse all of that down, something like so. Go in and convert that back to an editable poly. And what I'm going to do last is just do some painting work. So this is a new feature added to Max 7. We now have the paint deformations area. So what I can do here is I can go into a push-pull mode, and you can actually have two brushes because we've got some cloned brush going on across a mirror plane. And we'll just set the strength down to 1. This would also be controlled by a pressure-sensitive tablet if you had one. And now I can just start to add a little detail onto the muscles, maybe bulge them up a little bit, add a little bit of hip bone to it very quickly. Any extra little mass changes I want to make. Now, of course, this is also very useful on low-res geometry. I've often used it on low-res simply to help mass out simple objects. For instance, if I used what was for all intents and purposes a simple cylinder to start off an arm, I would then use the brush tools to brush them out into the general mass of the arm before I continued. It just saves me a lot of time going through and hand-moving verts and polys. Now on top of push-pull, we also have the ability to revert. So if there's one particular operation you did with paint that you didn't like, you can simply paint a reversion on that and it'll actually send it back to what it originally looked like. Now, my personal favorite, of course, is relax. So if there's something I wanted to smooth out, maybe a jumble of vertices and edges that isn't looking quite right, I can go into relax and simply blend that away. So in this case, let's go and make this relax a much stronger relax, just so it's really obvious. So let's say we'll give it a strength of 7, and you can see the line coming off the brush tells me what my relax strength is. Well, now I can start to go through and just blend this stuff away, and we'll make the brush even bigger just so it really starts to take effect. And you can see everything kind of softening up around where you move. So this actually works really well also on low-res geometry. You can often take low-res geometry and make it look like it's almost been turbo smoothed or mesh smoothed very quickly. So again, great tool when you want to go in and just clean up a model, smooth it out, remove any kind of errant edges and vertices that are running around. So that's just a quick look at some of the tools inside of Edit Poly and Edit Mesh. Many more in there where that came from.